bill. Yes, I'm only a bill.
We all remember this song. It made it all seem so simple, and turns out it's not. Who writes, influences, and kills bills? It gets messy. I'm Scott Greenstone.
And I'm Libby Denkman. On Sound Politics, we tell that story, the inside track on how policy gets made in this Washington and the other one, and how it impacts you.
Listen now on the KUOW app or wherever you get your podcasts.
Hi, and welcome to Meet Me Here, KUOW's weekly guide to arts and culture worth leaving your house for. I'm Jeannie Yandel, and I'm sure you've noticed, the sun is finally setting late enough that you may actually want to leave your house these days. I'm certainly feeling that. So we're going to get into a local tradition, the Art Walk. This is kind of the perfect thing to do if you want to go out, but you don't necessarily want to stay in the same place all evening. It's like a little exploration of a neighborhood punctuated by lots of visual art from lots of regional artists. We've got a how-to for art walks, both nearish and farish. But first, I want to give you some history. Seattle claims the first and oldest art walk in the nation, the Pioneer Square Art Walk that happens the first Thursday of every month. Now, we may have the oldest, we may have the first, but I would also argue that we have one of the most diverse collections of art walks as well, because we have art walks all over the state. Olympia, Spokane, Bainbridge Island, Edmonds, Tacoma, and more. We also have one up in Bellingham, where Meet Me Here producer Kyle Norris lives. That art walk happens the first Friday of every month. Kyle went to the most recent First Friday, and he's got some tips on what you should check out if you go next month.
Start downtown on Cornwall Avenue at Allied Arts of Whatcom County. There's one specific thing here that brings a lot of people through the door.
You know, it's like if you're trying to find a good deal on some really nice art supplies, we do have that here.
It's the thrift store inside the Allied Arts space. Meredith Patton is the interim executive director, and she told me the thrift store is jam-packed with art supplies.
We have got party and celebration supplies. We have craft and DIY materials. Bins of glitter. We've got bins of different stamps here of different styles.
Check 1, 2, test.
For like $10, could I walk out of here with like
a bag of stuff? Easily. And maybe a couple pieces of artwork.
Wow.
Yeah.
And tonight there's a woman playing the keyboard and singing the classics.
I'm Cheryl Hodge, and I'm a musician from everywhere. I live in Bellingham. So this is my favorite gig in a lot of ways because I'm not trying to necessarily please an audience. I'm trying to blend in with the art. Something like that.
A few blocks away on Flora Street, dozens of small children are having what seems to be the time of their lives at the Whatcom Museum inside the Family Interactive Gallery. About 20 toddlers wiggle in their tiny chairs, listening to Mark Lindenbaum play the tuba. Pro tip, the entire museum is free and open late on First Fridays. A few blocks over on Holly Street, there is massive construction inside the former Mindport Museum, which has now closed. Roughly a year from now, this building will become a future home, highlighting Coast Salish arts and cultures. In fact, there's already a big mural on the side of the building.
My name's Adania Carnes. I'm a producer with Children of the Setting Sun Productions. We are Indigenous storytellers here in Bellingham, Washington. So for First Friday, when you're walking down the street on Holly, you're going to see our beautiful mural. It's right in the alleyway. It's vibrant, beautiful colors, purples, blues, greens, and the scene is really special because it depicts what you would see pre-contact. The mural has a village site, it has reef net fishing, it has orca whale, it has an eagle, and a fox, and all kinds of elements hidden in this really beautiful mural with many colors, and then it will come alive at night. We're going to light it up with moving elements that are going to be projected onto it.
The June 5th First Friday features Indigenous artists, and you can preview the future home for Coast Salish arts and cultures on Holly Street. The building will officially be known as the Setting Sun Circle.
That was Meet Me Here producer Kyle Norris, and we'll have more information about Bellingham's First Friday Art Walk in our show notes.
Seattle's economy is complicated. Inflation, tariffs, AI, layoffs. It's a lot to keep track of.
That's where we come in. I'm Joshua McNichols.
And I'm Monica Nicholsberg.
We host Booming, a podcast about the economic forces shaping our lives here in the Pacific Northwest.
Every week, we dig into the big questions about our economy and where you fit in.
Find Booming on the KUOW app or wherever you listen to podcasts.
Now, if you've never been to an art walk, or if it's been a while since you've gone to one, I have to tell you that the original art walk in Pioneer Square is really great. It's part block party, part street fashion show, with quiet moments of encountering some really cool visual art. Last year, I talked with artist Tommy Gregory about First Thursdays in Pioneer Square, and he shared some tips for how to get the most out of any art walk you go to.
So it's intuitive because there's usually not a script. Beautiful. I think it's a beautiful place to walk around. And then I think positive.
Tommy Gregory is an artist and the senior art manager for the Port of Seattle. That means if you've ever looked at a piece of art at SeaTac Airport, Tommy is likely the one who put it there. He also loves art walks. He goes all the time, often by himself. So he's the perfect guide to explain how to art walk like a seasoned pro.
The Pioneer Square one, it's just got a rich history of art studios as well as art galleries. There's never a route that I think people completely stick to. I think it's extremely intuitive. There's shows you want to hit at Stonington, which is a little bit closer to like First, and then there's like Artist Exchange on First. There's great wine bars that show local artists. There's just all these reasons for people to. I think that the reason the Pioneer Square one's so strong is it's an area of plenty as well as beauty. Great large trees, a fantastic environment in Occidental Square, where I think it's very real. Pioneer Square is a real part where you see all walks of life, all age groups, lots of dog walking. It's just a great place to go and then spread out and look at art.
I imagine you going to Pioneer Square for the art walk often on your own. When you do go, where should you start? I mean, where do you start?
There's two places I like to start. I like starting at Collins Pub, and the bartender there's named Kevin. There's other ones, but that's one that is always memorable to me. And I'll have like one drink. You'll always bump into somebody, whether it's an artist or an art professional. So that's a fun spot. And then the Meyer is where almost all the artists start.
One of the things you told me when we were talking earlier is that sometimes when you are at an art walk, you'll look for people to tag along with.
Yeah.
How do you approach people in that circumstance?
I mean, the one thing I think anybody listening could know is there's not a more open community to me than the art world, the art community. From artists to dealers to curators, it doesn't matter what your cultural background is. I feel like you're just accepted because we understand the complexities and the difficult nature of trying to be somebody who makes something that didn't exist before and then show it. There's just a lot of risk, or if not risk, vulnerability. So I do feel like if you're somebody who loves to talk, the art world will listen. And if you're somebody who's shy to start, they're willing to break the ice because they want to share their ideas. It's one of the kind of odd congregations that could happen in the art world where people will bump into each other spontaneously. Sometimes they'll plan to, and they'll see art in a setting that is very different than any other kind of environment. It's not like a museum where you have to be quiet. These art walks humanize the viewing experience and create camaraderie, or at least, if not create camaraderie, allow the opportunity for it.
We like to provide options at Meet Me Here, so in that spirit, Tommy also wants to guide us through the Capitol Hill Art Walk. I asked him for 3 words to capture the vibe of that art walk.
It's edgy and funky, and then it's just like a surprise.
Tommy says one of the special things about the Capitol Hill Art Walk is that, for him anyway, it's kind of an art sleeping giant.
Like every time I go, I'm very pleasantly surprised to see the caliber of work that is shown in a neighborhood that has so much to offer. I've talked to certain Seattleites who've been here for years and years more than me, and I'm like, oh, I'm going to the second Thursday in Capitol Hill. I'm like, there's an art walk there, and I was like, yeah, it's fantastic. It's a different vibe. You're walking by a lot more visual distractions, some great neon signs that will draw you in maybe to get a drink that you didn't plan on. Places like Steve Gilbert's studio, the Factory, Vermilion, which is I think more known as like a music venue and bar, but they definitely show pretty strong pieces.
You pointed out that Capitol Hill is also full of distractions. So when you go to the second Thursday Art Walk, where do you start?
I usually take the light rail because parking is super difficult in Capitol Hill. And I'll walk from the rail and stop at Steve Gilbert's first. I think he opens the earliest too. I think he opens at 5. Gilby is he's known to the neighborhood and the art community. Yeah, he's been in that studio above Perkins Glass for over 20 years. He's a photographer who used to shoot bands like Soundgarden back in the 90s and has really tied into the art world of Seattle. But I love to start there. He will try to hand you a shot of tequila if you're open to it. But he also, sparkling water is totally cool there as well. And it's just like a salon style of Gilby's many years of collecting art, showing art, and then being a maker himself. He's a photographer.
Okay, so I am going to give you a scenario that I personally am deeply afraid of. This is something I have anxiety about. I really appreciate that you described both of these art walks as just being really open. I imagine going to Pioneer Square or Capitol Hill first Thursday or second Thursday. I walk into a space, there's really cool stuff hanging on the walls, and lo and behold, the artist is standing before me. And we make eye contact. This is probably fine for you, Tommy. My palms are sweating just describing this scenario. So I'm asking you, how do I engage in conversation without sounding like a total goofball?
Yeah, and I guess I should start off first with Jeannie. It's totally fine to be a total goofball too. Like I don't think that any artist, if they got like, I think that engagement is welcome for the most part. I mean, and for example, like we were talking about Pioneer Square and other off like maybe places that aren't defined as like a gallery. Pilchuck Glass School has an office there, and they open up sometimes with artist talks by people who had been through the program at Pilchuck and Stanwood. So that's like I'm always inviting for like an educational moment, and that could be a nice icebreaker. And glass artists are like crazy sweet. But yeah, I think that there's no wrong question, right? I mean, there's some of those that like I think that people artists and I'm an artist too, right? And I hear it too frequently, like, oh, what inspires you? That's you don't start with that one really because because it's just too broad of a question and it probably goes all the way back to like for me like I was 8 years old if we want to go back that far. It's a very tough world to be an artist in this in 2025 America, so to have somebody come up and just have a sense of wonder about why you're doing something is going to be very welcomed, I think.
As a professional extrovert, do you have a suggestion for what I, noted introvert, can say to someone without fail to start building camaraderie at an art walk? I'm literally asking you for a script.
If you get a chance to talk to the featured artist, they're there knowing they're going to get questions. So maybe find them as the introvert because they're there to talk about their work, and not always in a like in a lecture standpoint. It could just be like, hey, where'd you source that material? Artists love talking about materials, but if you're an introvert and you want to get somebody talking, talk about like the process. I think that's a really good one because that's better than like where you are emotionally in art. That's a tough one, but ask where they are physically in it. Like, hey, where's your studio? I love that. I actually love that question because then I start talking about my neighborhood because that's where my studio is. That's kind of a fun one.
Tommy, your job is to look for, source, place art, but beyond your job, what do you get out of going to these art walks?
Yeah, I just there's an excitement that I always get and knowing that like I'm going to get up close and see something without a velvet rope or without a security guard telling me to stand back a little bit because I think you're supposed to get up close, look at it. I just feel like there's just like a lot of joy at being and like hearing the way other people respond to work. And sometimes that gets me too, where I'm just like, oh my God, I didn't see it that way. And then, I'll look at stuff. I think I was taught this way. It's like, if you're looking at a 2-dimensional piece too, that's framed, look at all 4 sides and then go to the center. Like you don't neglect any part of something because you're going to miss something. Stand back on it, get close to it. And when I look at art that way, I think that other people see my own wonder and they're like, hey, if they know about it, they'll start talking to me. Right. And then this strikes up this conversation that completely unscripted and just, again, honest. I think there's a true like honesty in this kind of everybody going out together, spreading out, looking at things and sharing ideas and asking questions. And I love that. It just makes life way more interesting.
Tommy Gregory is an artist and the senior art manager for the Port of Seattle. Tommy, thank you so much. It was so fun to talk to you.
Thank you. It was my pleasure.
Tommy Gregory is an artist and a senior project manager at the Port of Seattle, where he oversees and curates art for SeaTac Airport. So if you've been at SeaTac lately, you know Tommy's curatorial work. The next Pioneer Square Art Walk is happening on Thursday, April 2nd, and the Capitol Hill Art Walk is happening on Thursday, April 9th. Both start between 5 and 6 p.m. And I mentioned earlier that we have art walks all over the state of Washington. But if you live in Seattle and you don't really want to stray too far from home, never fear. There are more than a dozen art walks in Seattle neighborhoods alone. We are going to try and collect as many different art walks around the state as possible, including all of those Seattle neighborhood art walks, in our show notes. So you will have a one-stop shop for the next time you decide you want to wander around and check out some local art. Thanks for listening to Meet Me Here. Meet Me Here is produced by KUOW, a proud member of the NPR network. It's hosted by Katie Campbell, Dyer Oxley, and me, Jeannie Yandel. It's produced by Kyle Norris, Brandy Fullwood, and Matt Martin. Phyllis Fletcher is our editor. You can find out more and support the show at kuow.org/meet. And if you're enjoying Meet Me Here, let us know. Rate and review the show wherever you listen. It really helps. If you have an arts and culture event you want to tell us about, email us at arts@kuow.org. That's arts@kuow.org. I'm Jeannie Yandel. See you soon.